is Battle Bus is ready and loaded and vivid. Let's take it home.
Let's go. Here we go. Now, Panda, watching the MENA region over there, like, what do you kind of expect to happen with these drop spots? Like, there were some contests going on over in the MENA region and over in EU. Do you think that's going to be any different?
I don't think so. I think we're going to see some players get contested. I think that's going to be a major factor here in today's games, especially with the caliber of player that we have in this lobby. Because we've talked about it, right? But this is some of the best players across all of the EU region loading up in today's games. And we're actually going to see it here. We get to kind of cover your question immediately. Will we see players contest each other? And this is a nice little view of the map, right? We get to see where everybody's landing, have a really good understanding of what we're going to zoom into and really focus on. But there, look at the amount of players splitting down the middle. It looks like this might be a good time to consider trying to land at like a more central POI, because it looks like everybody's either going all the way to the northwest or the southeast.
Yeah, and one of these things that I love about some of these tournaments that we see, because we don't see it often, usually like FNCS, we kind of fill the lobby up, right? But in this specific scenario, right, we're only actually going to do 44 duos, so we don't actually have a full lobby. So it kind of leaves some space on the map open for a little bit less contests. So you kind of have that like staple job spot, but nonetheless, there are still a lot of players on the map, so they are still going to be contested each other. Like, we see like Tilted Towers, Covert Cavern, some of those hot POIs. And look at this, even over at Rocky Reels, kind of trying to claim this POI because, Panda, there is a blimp here.
Yeah, and look, we've talked about it in the past, right? How when a new chapter or a new season emerges, there are new things around the map that truly affect the way the game is played, and this being one of them, the blimps. Now, this blimp here in Rocky Reels is actually under siege by the 7, so you actually see how the name is lit up red. So it's not only under siege by these people in the game, it's also Vask and Chico here looking to make something happen. They're going to take Rocky Reels themselves, but Kovacs up on the blimp is going to take that incredible aim and try to connect as many shots as they can. But with the benefit of the overshield, you just kind of have to back up a little bit, even if you do take a little bit of damage, and heal up real quick.
Yeah, and the overshields are a great point, right, Panda? Because that's something that was introduced this season alone. And the way that it works is, right, you kind of get this 50 shield that you kind of have on top of the HP and normal shield that you have. And this overshield kind of regens as long as you don't take damage for a period of time. So these players can kind of use that to their advantage. And it's really, really helpful in situations where you can't just build a wall, right? Like if you're caught out in the open, you can kind of take that extra 50 damage, kind of make something happen with it. But Kovacs and Xerox here kind of happy with the loot that they've gathered up, and now they're going to start looking to scout the area, kind of see what's around them to make sure that they are aware of their surroundings. But I'm going to tell you right now, they're probably not going to leave this blimp for as long as they can stay up there. They're going to be comfortable and just fine and dandy with just letting everybody under them kind of run around and do whatever they want.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's a really good point. They are just going to kind of let these other players begin to rotate and do what they can, but not for Vidil and Noah Riley, who are instantly getting some early game tags here onto Raiden and Dids, and it actually results in 2 eliminations for him. So it looks like they actually potentially picked up another elimination just beforehand. So 3 total elims here for Vidil and Noah Riley. A great start for them, and I believe that's some serious early game points here, Vivid.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, that is a great start. And, one of the things that I was worried about thinking about some of these EU teams is that, for example, Vidil and Noah Riley, they have a history of being aggressive, right? And I've played some no-build games, some of these, like, fun little tournaments that have gone down, and it is really, really hard not to kind of just, like, shoot at people that are passing by, right? Because you're like, oh, like, this guy's in the open. Let me just go ahead and take some shots, do some damage. But, whilst the building resources aren't necessarily a problem in this game mode, it's actually ammo that has become a big problem in instances where I have played. So kind of like taking their shots and getting those early eliminations, you could see there that Vidil only actually had 80 medium bullets left, while a lot of these other players already have upwards of 200. So it does make a big investment when you go for those eliminations. Hopefully they can recuperate on some of those bullets, because it does come into play later on in the game when you need to defend yourself.
Yeah, I think that's one of the other portions of zero build that players are still adapting to, is finding enough ammo to survive, right? Because, well, obviously in your traditional build mode you have to worry about surge and other things. In this mode, even though surge doesn't play as much of a factor, you actually find yourself shooting more than the typical build mode. And that's because when you come into contact with a player, you can't just build a wall to defend yourself. You literally have to either have a shoot off or just kind of shoot in the direction of the opposing enemy as you try to back away and find cover, because realistically that's your only option. You have to go find cover because you're not going to be able to build it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And really the only way that these players can quote unquote build cover is with these cow caches, which we did see play a big role over in the MENA region. You know, you can kind of throw them down instantly, but a lot of teams like to kind of pick a spot when it gets closer to this end game, and they kind of just like to set up like 3-4 of these cow caches, which is why you're going to see a lot of players carry them. But look at this. Kiku and Skirwy here, they're going to be setting up a little bit of a trap in this house, Panda.
Yeah, and honestly, this is how you have to play zero build, right? You have to be a little bit more patient. You have to utilize the existing cover, and realistically, you have to set up some situations like this that could feed yourself eliminations if a player decides to walk through that door. But realistically, we've also seen situations like that go sideways as well. Somebody try to set something up, wait for a player to make their way forward, and unfortunately it just doesn't work out in their favor. So they need to be careful just as much as they need to be sneaky enough to pick up some of those elims.
Yes, a very good point, as we see here. Oh, look at this, Panda. You are kind of getting your wish here. We are going to be taking our first look over at the battle bus coming into play from Magically Nemoa's 2Ks. They're going to be kind of chasing this team away, kind of defending this kind of area that they do have security here. But again, you know, that battle bus is just kind of like sitting there, and it's such a big like target for a lot of players that could kind of pass by and kind of like take some pop shots at. So really hard to be low key, and it kind of gives away your position. It's just a giant battle bus, you know?
You're absolutely right. One of the cool things that was added this season, and I think plays a big role in utilizing the armored battle bus, is the repair torch. Now, we actually saw this get vaulted in the traditional competitive modes, but in zero build, as you can see in Scram's inventory, it's still here, and it's still available for the players. So it's really going to be interesting to see if they can utilize that repair torch and all these different new items added in Chapter 3 Season 2 to stay alive here in zero build.
And it's a great point that you make there, that repair torch. The reason why it is so important is because your vehicle, it's going to take damage, right? You're going to make these rotates while you're in your car or your truck or your tank, and you know, players can just be like, hey, I don't want you near me, I'm over here. So they're going to take shots at your vehicle, and it's going to get damaged. But then when you finally settle down and get to a position where you're kind of like chilling and not really getting shot at anymore, you know, your car or your vehicle, it took damage, and the repair torch is so good because it just repairs that damage that you took, and you can kind of be healthier for that next rotate that you need to make.
You know, now that we're looking at the trucks, another little tip here on top of the repair torch is actually you can throw a gas can in the back of a truck, as well as the back of the semi.
Yeah.
And so obviously another factor here to these vehicles that have stopped them and being successful in the past is the fact that they run out of gas, right? So now you don't have to worry about that as much. You don't even have to take up an inventory slot to worry about it. So it's going to be interesting to see if we get to see any of these plays take place. But I see Bad Sniper and DKS making their way into zone. And it looks like they're going for one of those center spots, which, let's be honest, it's expected.
Yeah, I mean, they're going with the traditional Fortnite way. But let me tell you, man, center zone positions in this no build, they're a little sketchy sometimes, because there's just not, you don't have your builds just be like, oh, listen, we're in center zone, we can base up, right? Like, you have to pretty much find a spot in the center zone that is like covered on all angles, because you are in the center of the zone, which means that 360 degrees all around you, there can be players anywhere. So you really have to find a good spot, and those spots, they're just hard to come by, right? Like, even if you're like behind a tree, then you can get seen from like some other angle or something like that. Or if you hang out in your vehicle, somebody might get mad that you're just hanging out in your vehicle. They might, you know, start shooting your tires or something like that. So it is really, really hard. I do like the idea though of sitting in buildings during something like this. As you can see, This duo is just going to be hanging out in the border body, man. Panda, they're just fine and dandy, chilling out. Nobody can even see them.
You know, it's funny. This is very reminiscent of Chapter 1 of Fortnite, right? You hide in the bush. You hide anywhere that you could find, right? Just to stay alive because no one knew how to build. Well, now you can't build. So we're seeing all those same those tips that we saw in Chapter 1 be used here in Chapter 3, which honestly, it gives it a really nice feel. And I'm sure for a lot of these players, they're out here competing. They're like, man, this feels like the old days.
Yeah, it's really, really fun. There's new dynamics come into play, whole different way to play the game. So it has been a really refreshing new game mode that has come out. And these bush plays, we're seeing a lot of teams take over these bushes, right? Because it's not directly cover, right? But teams can't really see you, but you still can get shot. So sometimes the situation can get a little bit sketchy. If somebody starts taking some shots at you and they get lucky and hit you a couple times, all of a sudden you're in like a bad position and you don't really have anywhere to run, because usually these bushes are in the middle of like nowhere, just in like an open field. So like, for example, Jacob right here, he's actually lucky. He's got a tree, but there is a team off in the distance kind of just taking random shots into those bushes. When he starts getting hit, those tags do come in, and good players can kind of follow those tags and kind of predict where you're going. So sometimes it's a little sketchy, but usually a pretty good spot.
Usually a pretty good spot for sure. I think that's one of those things that in seasons past, that every player who's played the game up until this point, they kind of gotten in the habit of, right? They see a bush, they take some shots. If something connects, great, they're pushing it. If nothing connects, okay, you know what? Maybe that bush is safe. Maybe I can rotate to it. Maybe I can hide it. That's where I'm going to base myself up. But in this situation, right, these bushes are going to be vital to teams like Babacola and Keneal. So these teams already found a really nice spot. And I got to say, Keneal with the 6 shockwave nades, that's going to be extremely impactful for their team. But no, I talked about how Surge doesn't play too much of an impact here in this game. But I must be wrong, because Surge is active here, folks, and they're going to need to find some or connect some shots here pretty quickly.
And that's one of those things about these veteran players, right? Like, if you've been playing Fortnite for a couple years now, Storm Surge was introduced, more than probably like 2 years ago at this point. So they've been dealing with it for like 2 years now. But maybe some of these players, they qualified in this no build format because they're just genuinely good at this no build format. And they're not maybe used to Storm Surge. And as we saw that team there, they were actually below, and they were kind of just hanging out in the bush, not really making any plays. But as you can see in the top left, Storm Surge, the way that it works is it is not happy until that there is a maximum of 70 players left in the lobby. And right now we have 71. So it will do damage here to one team that has less than basically all of the other teams in the lobby. And since there's 71, there's only actually one team that can be taking damage, as Andy puts down some great shots from a distance.
Great shots indeed. A great start there from them, and that's obviously going to keep them ahead of Surge if it becomes a factor again. But it's actually on to Pink. Pink being an FNCS champ, a player in the EU region who has done massive things in competitive, now looking to take that same energy here in the zero build competition. But Surge is no longer active. We're down below 70 players, meaning that Surge will not be an issue here for Zone 3. However, if players continue to stay alive, that could be another issue they face here moving forward. But speaking of moving forward, it's Andy and Onyx Addy. These players are looking to get these vehicles and just start moving. But my pick here for the day is Bad Sniper DKS. They got the truck, they got the tank, and they're looking to use it.
Yeah, actually surprising decision, right? Because they were kind of like over behind that little bit of a hill, right? So they were kind of safe, but no, they're actually going to bring the tank up, kind of expose there, be like, hey, listen, we have a tank, and they're utilizing it very, very well, putting some good damage over to Basin and Senna, who actually have a tank of their own. But they themselves, yeah, listen, just go right behind that hill right there, and you should be fine as Bad Sniper retreats now, and that repair torch panda, it's coming into play here.
Yeah, it's the war of the repair torch, and to see who can use it better. Because you have to, it's more important to get this tank to the end game than it is to get your tags here in this moment. And that's what Stenna and Basin know. They know that they need to hold on and keep this tank as long as they can in the game. And that's what they're going to aim to do. Now, they are kind of finding cover, natural cover through the hills, which is really smart on their part. But they need to be careful because, like we saw just moments ago, Bad Sniper and DKS, they're on the hunt, and they're ready to take shots as soon as they see you.
Oh, this is so funny. A little bit of a tank battle going on. Bad Sniper really wanting to make sure that he can kind of remove this tank, right? Because if he is left as the only tank in the lobby, then that's going to be a big advantage. But if we're looking at the map, actually, Bad Sniper might actually have to make a rotation directly towards that other tank, and the Storm is right on their backs right now, so they do actually have to make a move right now. Just going to be utilizing that tank, kind of take a stroll right through the center of this zone here. But when they actually get into zone, they have to make sure that they find themselves a good spot. There are so many players around them that are kind of chilling back behind them. As we can see over there, we have Zrox behind DKS. He's a little bit suspicious. Maybe he spotted him out earlier, but Bad Sniper's actually going to go up on this hill, and there's not a lot of cover here, Panda, for them to chill out. If their tank gets destroyed, they could be in a bad position.
They could. They absolutely could. So they need to be careful here. But speaking of careful, it's Cholinville and EMXR. They are playing the careful game. While you see all the shots raining in for Bad Sniper, DKS, and other players, they're playing a little bit smarter. But no, as I say that, they're starting to rain shots in too. They actually see another team kind of utilizing their strat just in the distance there. And they're saying, you know what? No, there can only be one as the eliminations now come through here for this team. So great start for them. But speaking of great starts, Bad Sniper, one elimination on the board. My prediction is doing pretty well.
Yeah, they're doing pretty well. They're holding down this hill. I'm surprised, you know what I mean? Usually whenever we put a vehicle on a hill like this, a lot of people can see you, and therefore everybody that has an Anvil rocket launcher kind of just like, hey, listen, I'm not doing anything right now. Might as well utilize it the best way it can be used and use it on a vehicle. But they're just kind of chilling in the open here and putting down some good tank shots on the Andretta, actually, who has himself, you know, cozied up in between some cow catchers. But the tank is making quick work of those. And look at all these trucks, Panda, just rolling around the zone, trying to make sure that they all stay alive and keeping their trucks healthy so that way they can keep using this mobile cover.
You know, I was really confused here. So I see Anderlix driving, right? And then Nico in the passenger seat, or Nico not in the passenger seat, but Andy in the passenger seat. And I'm confused, right? I'm like, wait, what's going on here? And this is,
oh my, yeah, look at this.
The definition of what happens here in zero builds, right? You have to survive at all costs. And as you may know, the driver can't shoot you while they're driving. And if the passenger doesn't kind of focus the driver's not going to get out and try to take a fight. So you can actually prolong staying alive just a little bit longer here. But as I say it, Andy getting focused here by a majority of the lobby. The shockwaves coming out, but they're just shockwaving into other players. Again, like we've talked about, in normal competitive game modes, you can shockwave away, build up, cover. But in zero build, that's not the option. So you have to be careful how and where you use those shockwaves, because you ultimately could just end up pushing yourself into a team instead of some desperately needed cover.
Yeah, and Refscar doing well here. Just one elimination, but this truck looks very, very healthy, almost full HP. They do have a repair torch, but look, no ammunition. He has an MK7 assault rifle with one, oh my god, and then he hops out of the truck and gets 500. I was just about to make a point. This guy cannot get an elimination. He doesn't have anything to do so, and then he just jumps out and picks up 500 bullets. So there we go. But these trucks are making a very big presence in this endgame.
They are, and as much as they are a useful tool, if you're not careful, you can also be taken out, and that's what we saw from Refscar there. Refscar trying to hold on to the vehicles that he had close by, and it just wasn't enough. Now his teammate getting shockwaved into the storm. That is a struggle point for them, but here he is, still trying to hold on to some existing cover, trying to stay alive, and a player that was pushing him actually ends up getting eliminated. So Elo Cats can stay in this game, but with players like Coop in the tank taking shots left and right, it's gonna be tough to see what these players can do.
It's just a field day, man. He's got the tank, and it doesn't really look like anybody else does. Oh, actually, Percolino is actually going to be hopping into this tank. He only does have 1,300 HP yet. A little bit of a sketchy situation, because he is a solo, but he is making quick work of the duos that are around him. And there you go. You know, just hop in the tank, right? Like, you have another team driving the tank, and you're just going to go hop in and use the gunner seats. What is going on, Panda?
I don't know. It's so much action. I can't even keep track. Coop now hopping in, getting an elimination there out of the tank. Now focusing another player out there in the zone, gets the elimination, and now it's all about connecting the shots into the driver. And there it is. The driver is out. Coop now having to ditch the tank, trying to survive. Can't even use it as cover as it blows up here, and he's taking some serious damage. Now though, on Hydra, in a similar situation, a lot of damage taken, and if he's not careful, one shot will take him out of that spot.
Look, there is a solo. Oh, they found him out. Okay, there is a solo hiding in the tank. They do find him out there. So now it is going to be a 2v1 situation, but on Hydra has to be very, very careful. Looks like they're on a low amount of HP, maybe even like 1. Oh, and there you go. The tank reigns supreme over Coop, and on Hydra and Naiad, they come out with the first victory out of the 4 games that we have to play here today, Panda.
I mean, it doesn't even matter. It was so close there in the final moments. And 4 HP in a dream, as long as you have a tank, that dream is successful. Like, you don't even have to worry about it. So fair play on Hydra and Co. Able to clean up Coop there in the final moments. So that's going to be a win and some elimination.